And today I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Sir John Hegarty, the H in BBH, who is a thought leader not only in creativity but also in business, and currently works for The Garage, which is an early stage investment company helping young entrepreneurs get their ideas off the ground with both money and brand advice. So John, as someone very, very experienced in the business, you obviously have a lot of experience of making sense of it all. So how do you go about it?
Well, I have a phrase which is principles remain and practices change. And I try and get people to understand that the whole of the marketing ecosystem has gone on fundamental change. But the principles of marketing remain absolutely the same. And I think the problem is today, we seem to have forgotten that. We seem to have forgotten that the fundamental principles are as they always were and always will be, by the way. But of course, the means by which you can communicate, the means by which you can talk to people has changed fundamentally. And I suppose, you know, I look at it in the round and I try and remind people that the most powerful strategy any advertiser can employ is the truth. Now, that's always surprising to people because they sometimes think that the job of advertising is to disguise the truth, is to hide it, is to fabricate, is to create something that's a sort of a camouflage of the real facts. Well, it's not. The most successful advertising, the most successful brands have been those that have employed the truth over the last 40, 50, 60 years, and those latterly that are doing that. But we seem to have reached a stage when the truth is a negotiable concept. And I suppose I'm talking about the wider world as well as the world of advertising. I've always felt the world of advertising encapsulates the wider world. One, because it uses the influences of the wider world, but of course your brand, your company is trying to be a part of culture. And that's what makes it powerful and important. It elevates the importance of that particular product or service. So we have a situation whereby people feel that the truth isn't necessarily an ingredient in a successful marketing campaign, whereas it is an absolute fundamental. And I try and explain that to people, and I do my communications triangle. And I think I've always believed in the power of three. Seemed to work for God, maybe, you know, it could work for us as well. And I say it's very simple. It's a triangle, one of the strongest structures you can ever create. And at the top of the triangle, it says, is it memorable? Because obviously, if you're talking to people, if your communication, if they can't remember your communication, then go home now, pack up and do something else. At one end of that triangle is it motivating? So I've stopped you. Now, having stopped you, am I saying something that is motivating, that is going to make you consider, think about the point I've made and your opinions? And at the other end of that triangle, the third point of the triangle is it truthful? Because actually, I'm trying to build a long-term relationship. And I think, as we all know, as in life, as in brand building, you don't build long-term relationships by lying. You build them by being trusted and being truthful. So that triangle sort of creates the kind of basis of what all communication should be about, except we seem to have forgotten the truthful part of it. And of course, the truth is a very powerful force. One, you can always remember it, it's disarming. As long as you communicate it in a way which is interesting, distinctive, funny, witty, smart, clever, whatever, you will have a very, very successful campaign. But as I said, we see now with the advent of digital technology and social media that somehow the truth is not really a relevant factor anymore. And I think that's something that is going to be paid heavily for by brands and going to be paid heavily for by social media companies. And I think the thing I would also say is I think there is a moral malaise at the heart of so many things today. Even though I talked about kind of, truth as the foundation of any great marketing campaign, we have a situation where Volkswagen cheat on emission control and undermine the value of that brand. We have a situation where technology companies think it's not their job to pay taxes. They find every loophole they can. There is no moral, in their view, there is no moral obligation to pay taxes. They aren't responsible. Yet, of course, they benefit from everything that everybody else is doing. And they don't see it, they see no conflict because profit has been elevated to a status beyond anything else, rather than are we benefiting society as a whole. And I think, winding back to all of that, the greatest advertising, the advertising that commands respect, and funny enough, and the irony is, of course, Volkswagen was built on the truth. It was built on a piece of advertising back in the 60s said, it's ugly, but it works. And it disarmed people, and they built an amazing organization around that. Today, we have Marmite, who have elevated the status of a yeast spread to a cultural phenomena by saying, well, some people love it, some people hate it. A genuine truth, extrapolated and articulated in a way which makes us laugh and makes us smile. And we now have a phrase called, that person's a bit Marmite. So that power to do that is fundamentally important, but it's something that has been forgotten. And I think it's also within society as a whole. I mean, we know fake news, and we know that's a phenomenon that's occurring anywhere. We have a prime minister who is an inveterate liar, and yet people carry on supporting him and voting for him. So I think because advertising is a part of society, I think you can look at it and say, we are a society, I believe, in crisis. In crisis because the democratic process is one which recognizes the truth more rapidly than any other process. That's its big advantage. Otherwise, you might as well have a dictatorship. And as soon as we malign the truth, as soon as we say it has less value, then the values within society recede. As they recede within a brand, you are not building a long-term relationship. So I kind of look at the truth as a powerful force, and one which we've got to rediscover, which sounds rather bizarre to say this, and make people understand how beneficial it is to a great company and a great piece of advertising.
Do you, John, therefore, I completely take what you say. So that's a big idea. But so do you have any advice for people how they might go about finding their own truths, or any strategies for doing that?
Well, I think it's about being honest. It's about looking at yourself and saying, nobody's going to set up a company going, it's 100% positive. Everybody knows there are defects within things. Everybody knows that it isn't absolutely 100% right. It's a matter of, if you look at other examples of advertising, the truth has to have a benefit in it. I'm not saying just tell the truth because, that's good. I'm saying look for a truth that has a benefit. It might not be an obvious benefit, but it is a benefit. I mean, I think Marmite was a wonderful example of that. They said there was a reality out there where people either hated it or loved it. And they said, we're going to take that truth and turn it into a very powerful, formidable campaign. So you're looking for things like that. I mean, Oakley, which I think is a very interesting brand, now, just IPO'd in the States for $10 billion. It's bloody oat milk. But they were very honest in how they talked to the consumer, the audience. They were very honest in it and said, and they talked in a very fresh way. And that honesty came across, and it was completely through the line, through everything they did. And it created a powerful brand, one that you want to associate with. I don't like associating with liars, either as brands or as people. And I think we've forgotten that. And I think society as a whole is underestimating that. And I think it is to our cost.
So how you make sense of it all is always to search for a truth with a benefit.
Absolutely. And that is the core strategy that you go for. What is it about this that actually will capture people's imagination that's founded on a truth?
Okay.
And that way you will create something, at least out of those 3 points, you're beginning to build a long-term relationship.
Well, that's pretty profound, John. Thank you very much for your thoughts.